Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Another great motorsports announcer once said, "Why the authorities spend millions of pounds trying to turn Silverstone into a great circuit when we have one already is a mystery to me." So tonight we head an hour southeast of London to Kent, and one of the oldest circuits in the UK, a frequent host of the British Grand Prix that some guy named Murray Walker was once enamored with, and no wonder. It's got seemingly everything. It's got lots of elevation change, check. Off-camber corners and blind entries, check and check. And so now 95 years young, the circuit that started as a grass track for bicycles and motorcycles, but has seen cars race there for the last 75, plays host to round number 7 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sportscar Series presented by Proforma Texas Elite Graphics here on Apex Racing TV. Welcome everybody to Brands Hatch. I'm Greg Ginsberg, and joining me in the announce booth, as always, is Larry Lefty McLeod with two Johns, Jonathan Grabowski and John Robertson, working behind the scenes to give you all the best views of tonight's action. And so, good evening, Larry. Hopefully you're there, and welcome back to Brands Hatch for I think the first time that we've been here with the Sportscar series. I believe we were here with the Classic Sprint series a number of seasons ago, but. This should be a wonderful, wonderful race tonight, a track that does race incredibly well, this 9-turn circuit that is Brands Hatch.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites to go racing on. I think it's just a spectacular hillside, rolling through it, high-speed, kink type of corners. It's dangerous. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be a pretty good time here, multi-class racing tonight. I think I'll put on a pretty good show.
All right, well, let's do this, Larry. Why don't we, maybe it's a little bit early in the show, but why don't we turn things over to Kevin Ford, because I think he's somewhat enamored with the place as well. Kevin is going to give us tonight's track guide of Brands Hatch.
Welcome, everyone, to beautiful Brands Hatch GP, located here in Kent, England. Great to have you with us as we provide you your track guide today around this 2.43-mile, 9-turn road course. This is one of my favorite tracks. It is full of undulation, a lot of off-camber corners, and then, of course, going out through the forest there, out into Hawthorne and through Sheen and Sterling's. Man, what a great track this is. Let's head up the front straightaway here. You'll notice our pit area to the right, our main grandstands to the left there. We'll approach the very first turn here at Brands Hatch, known as Paddock Hill Bend. A very strong drop-off here as we come out of that turn and drop down the hill. The track just falls out from underneath. Going up into Druids now. This is a very tight wrapping hairpin to the right. We'll come to power and come up off that exit and head down towards this next left-hander. Very tight right here. No room for overtaking at that corner, but coming up into the next corner here, this is where the overtaking begins. Coming through this section, and then, of course, up off of this corner, out of Surtees, we'll head down the Pilgrim's Drop straightaway here, underneath the walkway bridge, towards Hawthorne's. Very fast sweeping right-hander here. You'll see overtaking coming into this corner for sure. Now up out of Hawthorne's. This will lead us to Westfield. Very fast right-hander here. Bring us down the hill. Through Dingledale. Now up into Sheen Curve. Blind entry there. Very difficult corner to get right. Then ultimately into Sterling's. Nice run up off this exit here. And then this will be the next opportunity for overtaking as we head into Clark Curve, the final corner here at Brands Hatch. Up off that exit. Watch that back end. It'll want to step out on you there as you come back to power. Now heading down the front straightaway, we'll cross the stripe. There you go. There's your track guide for the amazing Brands Hatch GP circuit. Thank you for being with us.
And there you go. That is a lap of 2.4 mile, 10-turn Brands Hatch, the GP circuit. And Larry, you know, as we watch Kevin circulate around Brands, you take note of not just pavement, how much of the curbing he uses, how much of the runoff he uses, and how he just flirts with the grass on the outside there in so many turns in order to carry as much speed as possible through these corners. Yeah,
this place really tempts you to do it, but you almost have to be fast. You've got to use all those extra aprons, which means you got to practice around here. You've got to know where the 1Xs are, but you got to know where the real grass is versus the little turf-aided grass where you can actually drive over it without really losing grip. There's a lot of subtleties around this place, and it's not always the most popular track on the platform, but those that know it love it, and I think it'll make for really good racing tonight. I think we'll find out who's put in their time to practice around here.
Yeah, I mean, I was just watching as he went through Westfield, for example, and and he was so on the edge right there. You saw him really grabbing at the wheel, trying to get the nose straightened back up, and it just looked like the rear was maybe inches away from going off of that kind of lattice concrete / grass stuff there on the outside before he went off. But Larry, we've got qualifying here getting underway, and as we do for every round of the Sports Car Series, we're going to give our drivers 15 minutes to set their fast lap, and they're going to have the track all to themselves. They're not going to have the draft to worry about. They're not going to have traffic to worry about. It's just themselves, their cars, and Brands Hatch. And when we're done, we'll have our starting grid for the evening. And as they're heading out, we're watching right now Brandon Whitworth in his D2D eRacing TCR Honda Civic. Robert Brist, and let's take a look here. Obviously, I think we know what the TCR cars look like. We've got tonight both the Honda Civic Type Rs and the Hyundai Elantras. I believe those are the only two marks that are running this evening in TCR. And fairly easy to pick out there. There's John Sterling in the number 87 machine getting some heat in his tires on the outlap. But we do have two separate classes in GT4. We've got our GT4 AM drivers and our Pro drivers. And let me show you how we discern between them. They're going for the power slide, and maybe a little bit more than just a power slide, up and over and around the bend there. Chad Osborne in the number 23 BMW. Actually, we'll check back in with Chad a little bit later. But for the example, let's look at John Casey here in his Aston Martin. The GT4 AM drivers, they have the green mirrors on the cars, green windshield banners, green number boards, and green end plates. And by the way, John Casey, driver of the number 78 Freeder Sport Racing machine, he's going to be our, hopefully, be our pre-race interview guest. So let's take a look at one of our pro category drivers, like David Payton here, also from D2D eRacing, driving the number 64 Aston Martin. The GT4 Pro drivers, they've got the red number boards, red mirrors and windshield banners, and red end plates on their wings, and apparently really slick metallic green wheels on their Aston Martins as well. Pretty nice paint job there. So and the TCR cars that we were looking at before, they are all in blue. There, as we were looking at Eric Violette, who was our winner last round at the National Park of Speed at Road America, and you can see there in his Honda Civic, blue mirrors and windshield banner and number board and yada yada yada. So let's do this, Larry. Let's quickly, as our drivers are just now working their first flying laps, let's take a look back 2 weeks ago to the National Park of Speed and do a quick little recap where Eric Violette, as we mentioned, not only took the win, but took his 5th win here this season. Only other driver to score a win is his teammate Brandon Whitworth, who only managed to finish 4th 2 weeks ago. John Sterling from Team Collusion in the number 87 machine. We saw John a little bit earlier. He finished 2nd with Scott Brooks from Brooks Racing, taking the last step on the podium. Sterling in a Honda Civic and Brooks in a Hyundai Elantra. And if we take a look at the point standings now in TCR, here with 6 rounds complete of 8, it is Eric Violette right now with 190 points. He's currently 12 points clear of his teammate Whitworth. And we've got Nick Horvath, pretty distant 32 points back from there, hanging on to 3rd right now, because John Sterling from Team Collusion only 2 points back. All of our top 4 drivers, all in the Honda Civic Type Rs. It is not until you get the Scott Brooks running 5th in the championship, 11 points back from John Sterling, that you get to one of our Hyundai Velocitors. And then next in line, Marlon Jones, also driving a Velocitor. Let's take a look over at GT4 AM, where we had Brennan Horn from D2D eRacing in his Mercedes AMG GT4. Not only did he take the win, but he took his 4th win of the season. And actually, did I say an Aston Martin? I'm sorry, he's driving the Mercedes. He's in the Mercedes AMG GT4. Brennan Horn taking the win with Chad Osborne in his Redline Motorsports BMW, coming home in 2nd. Eduardo Lorente in the Courage Motorsports Porsche Cayman, taking the last step on the podium with Bobby Childs from D2D in his Mercedes. Chuck Labano, also in a Mercedes, they finished 4th and 5th, and with Horn taking the win, that ended a two race win streak that Labano had coming into the last round. And Labano having some issues there. I think, well, actually, if we remember, Larry, he didn't only have issues, he had fueling issues, if I remember correctly, that he ran out of fuel on the very last lap of the race and finished a lap down behind. He was the first driver not to finish on the lead lap. He could not. If I'm remembering this correctly, Larry, he made it up the hill, Road America straight, and ran out of fuel about 800 feet short of the finish line.
Yes, heartbreaking way to lose a race there at the end. But what I think that means is he's probably going to be pretty motivated to come back here and do it right this week. He might be an extra moment or 2 in the pits for his stop tonight.
That yeah, might want to take that extra half gallon. And there you saw the points there. Brennan Horn with a 22-point advantage over the rest of the field, but Chad Osborne, Brad Husty, Russ Ruddick, John Casey, all separated out by looks like about 16 points. So a pretty tight battle there. Once you get past our points leader, Brennan Horn, who again has had 4 wins this season. And so let's now take a look at the pro category drivers, where Mike Dam took his very first win of the season for Orion Racing, taking the win over his teammate Travis Schwenke. They ran very close, and Schwenke had a chance at the very end on the very last lap. They got into a little bit of traffic, and Dan was able to pull out about a 5.5-second advantage over Schwenke at the line. Robert Hartley, who was running with his two teammates, Dam and Schwenke, looped the car coming through turn 1 to start the very last lap, impacted the wall, but managed to recover and still come home in 3rd place ahead of Chris Thorman and Steve Daniel. So it was an all Orion, all BMW podium in pro. And if we take a look at the point standings now, Travis Schwenke, who has 4 wins this season, is currently your points leader. Mike Dam, with again his first win of the season, running 2nd in the points. He's 12 points back from Schwenke. Robert Hartley, who's missed a couple races but also has a win, currently sitting another 10 points back from Mike Dam. And then we've got Chris Thorman and Steve Daniel. Thorman from D2D, Daniel from SKKJ Racing, and they are currently 4th and 5th in the championship. All right, so let's take a look, Larry, and see where we stand now here in qualifying. And we'll see here. By the way, John, I'm having some of those same 403 issues that Larry was having. If we take a look, because we do have some issues with the timing and scoring. Let's do this, Larry, while we try and get some of our technical issues worked out. Let's bring in John Casey from Frito Sport Racing, driver of the number 78 GT4 AM Aston Martin Vantage, and get his insights not only on tonight, but the season as a whole.
All right, John Casey has joined us here pre-race. So, John, looks like you got your qualifying laps in here at Brands Hatch. What do you think so far?
The workout. Yeah. Now, this place is, I've only raced here, I think, in the Mazdas, so it's going to be different.
Yeah, this is a place, low power cars, like what I tend to flock towards. You just sort of fling it through these high-speed kinks, and it works out. But when you start throwing something a little faster through there,
yeah,
consequences a little higher. So, have you had a lot of
blind corners and elevation changes for sure?
Yeah, a lot of blind around this place. What do you think that's going to be like to actually be wheel to wheel around here? What do you passing opportunities, or even whether it's multi-class interactions? What do you think that's going to present, considering how blind some of the places are around here?
I don't think there's going to be a lot of passing opportunities, really. I think it's going to be a lot of follow the leader for a while. But I'm hoping just to stay clean and maybe gain a few spots on other people's mistakes, Is my strategy, I guess.
Yeah, it's always a good strategy to just stay clean, see what happens in the end. Are you at least, though, kind of peeking around to see who in the point standings might also be on track near you and make sure that you're staying alongside them? And you're in a bit of a battle here, and you got Chuck Labano, you got Russ Ruddick, a couple of the guys around. Are you just checking the standings, see where they're at during the race?
Yeah, I try to keep up with Russ. If I can keep up with Russ, I consider it a good race, I guess. That's usually who I try to watch mostly is Russ.
Yeah, he's a pretty good gauge, been around this for a while. But you've been at this now a couple of seasons worth. As your experience grows around here, are you getting a more sense of comfort running with these guys? Is it start to feel normal?
For sure. Yeah, you can learn a lot from these guys. They're a really good group to race with. I have been with them, I guess, a few seasons now. I'm sure when I started this season, they were like, who is this guy, It was mostly racing by myself, I think, but it's fun when you can finally keep up with them.
Yeah, for sure. Have you had much chances here in the GT4 car to really attack and get a lot of practice time in here at Brands Hatch?
Not a lot, really, honestly, at Brands Hatch. I've done a few in the Mazda. I know the track pretty well. It's just finding the different braking points and stuff with the faster car, I guess.
Yeah, well,
but the GT4, it floats to me a lot. You got to wait on it a lot. So, in this place especially, all the curves are a lot of waiting and when to get in the throttle again,
Yeah.
Not too hard and not too soft.
We can see that you're actually out there driving along while you're being interviewed. And some of the corners, like the section you just went through, that last corner, to me, is so difficult to get right. And the penalty for getting it wrong often ends up in that gravel trap, which seems to be a theme around this place. You go wrong and you end up in a trap in a wall, and your night's over prematurely.
Sure. One little mistake and it's over.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, John, good luck tonight, and stay safe. See if you can hang on and see where you're at in an hour's time.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for broadcasting on.
Absolutely. All right, John, good luck to you today. That is John Casey, driver of the number 78 Freedom Sport Racing Aston Martin Vantage, who just, Larry, we talk all the time about Brennan Horn, texting and driving, and I have actually a neat story about that that I might tell a little bit later. But John Casey was interviewing and driving, and while he was talking to you, we put the car 7th in GT4 AM, so good run for him. I know we don't have our overlay system, our timing tower up and running right now, so Larry, let's quickly run down the orders. I believe the only driver who has not put in 4 flying laps is the driver we're watching right now, and that is Travis Schwenke, and it doesn't really matter all that much because Travis
kind of a victory lap of sorts, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he's got the provisional pole already, so this is like a pre-victory lap, I guess. Which means I have now just definitely instituted the announcer's curse. But Schwenke will put the car on pole with a 129.33. His teammate Robert Hartley, second fastest, only 1,500 to the second off of Schwenke's times. Then Chris Thorman in the number 60 machine. Thorman third fastest in his Aston Martin at a 129.54, so only about 500 or 500ths of a second off of Hartley. That is your top 3, all in pro. Our 4th fastest driver on track and 5th fastest driver on track, both running the Mercedes AMG GT4s, both racing for D2D eRacing with Brennan Horn with a qualifying time of 129.65. Bobby Childs at a 129.72. Third fastest in GT4 AM is Tom Jenkins, also in an Aston Martin, driving the number 68 machine. Jenkins put in a 130.52, so almost 9/10 of a second off of the pole time set by Brennan Horn. And in TCR, we've got the 2 drivers from D2D at the top of the field there with a 132.67 on the clock for Eric Violette. His teammate Brandon Whitworth, a 133.08, so almost exactly 4/10 of a second off of Violet's times. John Sterling in the number 87 Honda Civic, a 133.32. And so that is the top 3 in TCR, all Honda Civic Type Rs.
I think that battle in the TCR is going to be pretty good tonight. I think Sterling probably going to make a little push to stick with the D2D guys, and I suspect that we could at least be seeing if 2, if not 3-way battle for this 1-hour sprint. So that the hour is the key here, that it's just short enough that everybody probably can get away without tire changes and just go race hard for the full 60. Should be a good time.
It should. All right, so Larry, let's go. We'll run down the starting grid here, and I apologize. You're probably not going to see it on the screen. You'll just have to take our word for it here. Starting off on the pole and right to his side, the 2 Orion teammates, Travis Schwenke, your pole sitter, Robert Hartley, starting in second. Chris Thorman in his Aston will start in third with Brennan Horn in a Mercedes. Your AM category pole sitter, he will start in 4th. Bobby Childs will start on the inside of row number 3 in 5th position. Jeff Jacobs will start right next to him in 6th. Then we've got David Payton and Tom Jenkins. They're going to start 7th and 8th today, both driving Aston Martins, with Chuck Labano starting in 9th in his Mercedes, Brad Husty starting in 10th. Then we've got Russ Ruddick and our interview guest, John Casey. Ruddick in the BMW, the number 95 car, Casey in the number 78 Aston. They're going to start 11th and 12th. And if we take a look, then we've got Stephen May. We've got Stephen May starting 13th, with Chad Osborne 14th. Robert Brist will start 15th, and then if we see Dale Maxwell out, he'll start 16th.
All right, so then in the TCR category on pole tonight, Eric Violette with that 32.6, wow, screaming fast time. His team, it'll be on his outside, Brandon Whitworth. They're from D2D Racing. Row 2 is going to be made up of John Sterling on the inside, Nick Horvath on the outside. And then at the tail of that field, but keep your eye out for him, Scott Brooks will be out there in the Hyundai chasing them down.
All right, so that is your starting grid. And still looking to see, there's a nice little gap there for Mr. Race Marshal, whoever that may be. So, but we've got the pace car setting up there, and you can see the and this is one thing that we didn't see so easily in Kevin Ford's track guide, Larry, is even just there right on the front straight as you head uphill to Paddock Hill Bend towards turn 1, where it rises back up. It's a blind entry, and then just immediately you drop down the hill there. Think of it like turn 1 at Mosport, but maybe without the without the rise leading into it. I don't know.
It's a little like the Mosport turn, where it is just, but it's a little slower, but it's just as blind and just as treacherous considering the off camber. And then as you come down here through the next sequence of corners here through the Indy section, it's just have to use the entry. You got to get the car up on the pavement they've given you. You can see a little bit of that pattern there on driver's right as they exit. Again, they'll have to use all of that. And that's the crazy thing about this place is the track limits are more like guidelines.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you never really know. And I guess, Larry, this would probably be the good time. I'm trying to remember where we were tracking the off tracks, because we had drivers putting in like 30 off tracks or something over the course of the race. But we do have penalties for obviously for contact, but you can receive penalty points on the season if you reach 21 incident points during a race, and if you get 26 or more, drive-through penalty. So this may be one of those races that's a short lap, but there are lots of opportunities, especially if you are just trying to eke out that last tenth or hundredth of a second of speed.
What I find around this place is if you pick up a 1X, you're probably going to end up putting the car sideways because you're probably already in the grass.
Yeah, that is true.
It's one of those places where the 1Xs are basically pain. So there's a couple of spots, but for the most part, like the exit of turn 3 is a spot where you can pick up a 1X there. But if you go too wide again, you're just going to spin and jut across track. So one of those dangerous tracks, you just have to know where the real limits are before going out there and race trim, but race is about to start.
That's right. All right. So as the field now is starting to make their way through the final corners here, as they come through the Clark curve, and you can see there's the pit-in area there, pace cars on the pit lane. And we are in that start zone already, Larry, so our real-life starter can give the starting signal anytime, and there it is. Green flag is in the air. Travis Schwenke, Robert Hartley off with our GT4 field. We'll have that TCR start in just a little bit. As they come down the hill, Travis Schwenke jumping out to an early start. Our winner from 2 weeks ago, Mike Dam, not here, not racing this evening. Sliding into third place is Brennan Horan, our GT4 AM category, and we've got a green flag now for the TCRs as Eric Violette jumps out to an early lead from that inside lane, not only jumping out to a lead, but almost a 2-car length advantage now over his teammate Brandon Whitworth. Then we've got sliding in from the outside from the left lane. It is Nick Horvath, who's gotten around John Sterling. So drop the Civic of Sterling now back into 4th position with Scott. Well, that's actually going to be the field.
Brooks, but Brooks actually does get around Sterling there for the 4th spot in that Hyundai. So maybe he's off to got a good setup there on cold tires. Managed to make that first position. We'll see if there's any more passing as they start heading to the far back section of the course. But over on the left side in the GT4s, we'll focus in on them. There you can see the battle getting started already. Chad Osborne there in the field. Just kind of a train, as John Case was saying. Not a lot of places to make your way around traffic here at this back section. It's a little conservative here in the stages.
Yeah, definitely early on as they're trying to get some heat into the tires. And, Larry, a couple weeks ago when we were at Road America, certainly you had those long straightaways with the opportunity to pass, but the other knock is that Road America also a fairly narrow circuit, about 55 feet wide, and in most places here at Brands Hatch, also with the exception of when you come out of the Clark curve onto the front straight, which is seemingly the widest section here, it really does narrow down, and you get maybe 3 cars wide at best, and it is really difficult to affect the pass here.
Yep, well, there's a couple of passes going on. There's one right there. That's Russ Ruddock alongside of the 137 of Brad Husty. And it looks like Ruddock is going to be just ahead of Husty in that battle as they come down the hill.
Yeah, so they come down out of Graham Hill and through Surtees and
Brist
going
with
around.
51.
That's Robert Brist putting his car around over at Graham Hill, and he is going to fall back to the back, not only of the GT4 field, but, well, the TCR started quite a bit further back, Larry, and I think he's still got about almost 15 seconds of a gap between he and the TCR cars, so he's able to get back underway, but he's got a long way to go now to get back to the rest of his GT4 run.
Yeah, well, the front three started to pull away a little bit, with Brennan Horan being the third, behind the two Orion cars of Schwenke and Hartley. Now just that gap back to Thorman and Bobby Childs, the other of the two D2Ds in that field. Oh, and that's a big wreck.
Big wreck.
That's a couple. That's Husty. That's Ruddick. That is David Payton.
I think Payton as well. Goes off, and Payton and Ruddick have already brought their cars back to the pits. Yeah, Jenkins is involved as well in the number 68 machine. His car now, he is going back to the pits. And so, Larry, it looked like a pretty calm first lap. Lap number 2, not so much. And Brad Husty manages to, instead of taking the tow, he limps back to the pit lane.
Yeah, he's limping back there. He is going to get in, but this will be the 4th car in the pits, with Peyton, Jenkins, and Ruddick all taking the tow. Husty driving barely his way into his pit stop as the rest of the field now goes on by.
All right, there you go. So as we jump back over to TCR, and it is, for the moment, a 3-car breakaway. It is Eric Violette, Brandon Whitworth, the 89 and the 42, and then it is Nick Horvath, the Canadian, in the number 82 machine, in the number 82 machine, who is sitting in 3rd. They're in the yellow and black and red Honda Civic Type R. And for the moment, you can see the gap there back to Robert Brist running. Probably that's not Brist. I'm sorry, that's John Sterling running in a distant 3rd position in the Honda Civic. And actually, it is Brist, I think, is the next car back, Larry. We had talked about it, Brist, originally when he went off early on, that he had about 15 seconds margin to the TCR cars, but well, they've already caught up to him as he was trying to get back into the groove there.
Yeah, so he'll probably be, if he's able to pick back up the pace here, he'll be catching back up to these guys potentially, but maybe he's just early in his race, kind of feeling things out. But these three, I'm telling you, it's going to be a pretty good battle among those 3 TCR cars at the front with Violet, Whitworth, and Horvath.
All right, Larry, let's take a look here. We may not have our overlays, but we got our replays. Let's take a look and see exactly what precipitated this big wreck.
Oh, wow. Is that Peyton in the 64 loses it on his own, but then gets back on the track and uses an obstacle for at least 2 other cars, and that was the 68 of Jenkins and Ruddick in the 95 that both came in and walloped them.
Yeah, Ruddick just had nowhere to go as Peyton came right across his nose there, center of track. Wow. Rough instance. That's one of those where he probably picked up a 1X, and at the next moment he was sideways, and everyone else coming down the hill. As you mentioned, it's a relatively narrow track in some spots. That's one of the narrowest places. There's just nowhere to go if someone's cross-tracking from you. Yeah, and and it's unfortunate, Larry, because with these GT4 cars, they do have traction control, they do have ABS, and more importantly, the biggest thing there is with the ABS. In an old car, you might want to go and get your foot into the brake pedal and try and lock the wheels down to make yourself a little bit more predictable and hopefully come to a stop. But we saw there, where the Aston just started rolling across the track, and I guarantee you he had his foot planted on the brake pedal. But the car just wasn't going to lock up.
Physics took over.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a look here. You got Nick Horvath. I told you he was going to be able to run with these guys tonight. He's showing his pace. He's right there on the tail of Brandon Whitworth. He's even shoving his nose down the inside as they come down through Sterling's.
Well, without Mike Dam here, I can't. I was going to say I can't make the Canadian jokes, but maybe I can. That wasn't very polite of Mr. Horvath there.
He's definitely not putting on his politeness. He's going to be a little bit rude tonight. Stop
coming down to the apex, eh? Yeah.
He's going to be a bit rude, a bit front here with his aggression for Horvath, trying to put something to these D2D boys. They really haven't had anybody for the length of a race interrupt their battle between Whitworth and Violet. So it's kind of great to finally see that push come. So we've seen efforts that almost win. We've seen near wins. We've seen near podiums. But nobody's been able to really crack it for the whole race. So I was saying,
well, so far early on, as we're working lap number 5, Nick Horvath is right there in that number 82 machine, hanging tight with Brandon Whitworth. Now the question is whether Whitworth is going to be able to hold Horvath off enough to maybe give a little bit more clearance to Eric Violet as we jump back over to the GT4 lead battle here, and it is Schwenke and Hartley, your 2 Orion Racing teammates, the 16 up ahead, the 3 who we're on board with.
Yeah, those 2 Orions a lap or so ago just laid down a flyer there. They were the first to crack into the 29s. It took an extra lap for Red and Horn to crack into the 29s, but Schwenke and Hartley at least started to pull away just out of the reach of the draft. Oh, really, the only spot around here you can feel any draft is that long clearway straightaway. Or sorry, the long Pilgrim drop. That's really where the only straightaway that there is around here. But it's enough that if you're close enough, you can definitely feel a little bit about draft.
All right, here's Chuck Labano challenging Jeff Jacobs. This is not for position in class, as Labano is in our AM category, currently running 3rd in AM. Jeff Jacobs just ahead in the 38 machine, running 4th in pro. And as I'm trying to look ahead, as I'm looking through the windshield of Jeff Jacobs, I don't have to look through his windshield. The next car in line up there is Bobby Childs. Childs, who is almost 4 seconds up the road, is currently running 2nd in AM. That is who Labano wants to and needs to get up to. That is for the next position in class.
But we always know that Jeff Jacobs is a very wide car, and the Mercedes is not narrow on its own. But you put Jeff at the wheel, and it's going to get even wider. And common cars, no difference in strengths and weaknesses between these two. Same kind of car that's underneath them.
Yeah, and again, 2 weeks ago at Road America, Labano ran a masterful race and had the rest of the AM category covered, and he was running, I believe, if I remember correctly, in the top 5 overall. And and again, just bit by the fuel bug there at the very end. And if Road America didn't have a huge hill leading up to the finish line, he probably would have come away with the win.
And he's also still scored with a DNS scored against him. So once he's able to get enough races in where that becomes a drop, you're going to see him jump forward in the standings. As we mentioned, he's got a couple of wins prior to this. He had the win at Magna-Port, the win at Rudskagen. So if he can get a good finish here tonight, he could be challenging at least for a podium on the season. So keep your eye on Chuck.
All right, as we are now exactly 10 minutes into this 60-minute race. And again, we'll keep you updated as we can here. We're still working on getting our graphics package back into the land of the living here. But as we watch now, closing down on Brennan Horan, Chris Thorman, his teammate, but Thorman in the pro category. And here's the big difference. And this, I was just thinking about this, Larry. I thought it was somewhat odd that the AM category drivers are running the Mercedes for D2D. And then we've got the Astons in the for the pro category. I would have thought that they all would have decided on one chassis here. But Brennan is now under attack from his teammate, Chris Thorman. And Bobby Childs starting to close things down just a little bit as well. We were talking about how long it was taking some of our drivers up at the front of the pack to break into the 29s. We said that Horn had finally done it around the lap, I think it was lap number 4. Well, Chris Thorman has just now gotten into the 29s as well, and as he did it, Brennan Horn was almost a full second off of his time.
And that's a bit of that did look like a little bit of contact there. Stephen May and Chad Osborne.
As Osborne in the 24 BMW, the second car in that line. Stephen May perhaps wearing the black livery there on the Mercedes in order to escape notice. The number 5 machine. It's the stealth mode car with a little bit of contact there. Looks like hopefully we'll be able to see exactly what precipitated it, but it looked like at least as we caught the tail end of that, Osborne might have been moved out of the way, let's say.
Yeah, we'll have to see what that looks like. It was certainly a near miss, if not actual contact. But they're still running, so I wouldn't say no harm, no foul, but very little harm because the fouls don't appear to be too strong between these two.
No.
They're racing again.
Yeah, they're racing, and they've both got very good pace, although this is also going to be bringing in Dale Maxwell in the 111 car, the Mercedes following behind, where he had been running about a second off of Osborne's and May's times, but I suspect he's going to be much closer this time here as Chuck Labano. Yeah, he's gotten around the wide car of Jeff Jacobs.
He has, and right behind them is Bobby now, so I'm not sure what happened to Bobby there, if he maybe contributed to the aiding in that pass.
Possibly.
Yeah, Bobby had a bit of a rough lap there, about 4 seconds slow, which has put him now behind these two, but it did allow Chuck Labano to make his way by. We'll see if Chuck now has the pace to pull away from Jeff. This is, again, super important for Chuck. He's going to be challenging anything in the season-wise for AM points. He's obviously still got Brennan Horan out in front of him, but having gotten around Bobby and Jeff right there, that's important for his points in the season.
Yeah, indeed. So that's going to move Labano now up into second in AM, and he is currently about 7 seconds back from Brennan Horan. He also has to find a way on Chris Norman, as well as we now get on board with Bobby Childs right behind the number 38 Mercedes.
Oh no, and Labano spins.
And Labano is around, and Labano is in the wall. And Larry, it looks like exactly the same place that we saw David Payton put the car around earlier.
Wow, that we were just talking about him having a chance to maybe close the gap and get some points, but not only does he spin, there's some damage on the front of that car.
Yeah, and that was right. That was over coming out of Sheen Curve, and very high speed corner. And the thing with Sheen, Larry, is I think it's the only corner here of the 9 turns that is a decreasing radius corner. Most of the other turns here do open up somewhat, but that one, especially I don't want to say it's a double apex, but there are a couple of little bends before you actually get to that that corner.
The other thing around this place is sometimes you'll see that there's that little bit of, I don't know, pavement grass that reaches across the exit of a lot of these corners. Sheen doesn't have that. It's one of the only corners that has 0 of that, which means if you even put a tire, even just a tiptoe on that grass on your track left, you're going to spin to track right. And speaking of spinning, that's the 111 of Dale Maxwell. That looks like that's down in the Graham Hill Bend, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's coming out of Graham Hill right before you get the Surtees. Essentially turn 3. Yep, that is it.
Wow, lots of spins going on at this stage of the race. He looks like he may have gotten away with that, out any contact, but he definitely has paid the price on track position and time. These two continue to lap at their own pace, now out to about 2 to 2.5 second lead over Brennan Horn and Chris Thorman, the two D2D guys there behind him. But Robert just kind of pushing Travis along. Doesn't look like he's being too aggressive at this stage.
Yeah, and Horn and Thorman now running fairly equal pace to our top 2 drivers, Schweike and Hartley. All 4 drivers right in that 129.9 range here. So, they're not losing ground at the moment, but they're not gaining ground either.
No, that's not a bad thing. If you think you want to have a chance to compete at the end of the race, you got a pit stop at some point in the night. We know the Orion guys are always very efficient with their pit stops. Any bit of a mistake, any bit of a slip up from the Orions, that 2-second gap they have now is gone in a heartbeat. So it's very smart for Horner and Thorman to continue this pace if they can, to stick within that couple of second range and be able to absorb any kind of a fuel stop issue. Yeah,
and with the GT4 cars, we anticipate that they could probably run somewhere along the lines of 22 laps over the course of the race based on what we saw in practice during the week. They're currently running lap number 11, so the pit window should be opening up probably around 4 or 5 laps, Larry. We think that the GT4 cars can probably do 36 laps over the course of the race, so it's coming soon. But we typically see the Orion racers go in usually towards the very end of their pit window, not up top.
Well, I'll tell you what, they just may have recognized the moment there for the Orion guys. Schweike and Hartley just each laid down 29.6s.
Cool.
Horn and Thorman 30.1. So another half a second grows between the pair of Orions to the pair of D2Ds. So those guys up front recognizing the moment, saying, we got to build that gap a little bit. So they're laying it down.
All right, as we take a look back here, and it's Chad Osborne and Stephen May once again. Here as Osborne in the BMW has gotten back around the number 5 machine.
Yeah, important for him to claw his way back up there. He's obviously going to be a bit behind, but you know, I'd like to see where he can go. But also Lobano is right there behind them, so I don't know what happened to Chuck there in that last lap.
Well, he had that pretty large shunt, and I'm amazed that car isn't in the pits right now. And,
yeah,
but that last time by, he ran a 139, Larry. So we may see Chuck Lobano bring that car into the pits sooner rather than later.
That's what I'm wondering, if his pace is off. But look at this, a good run down through Sterling's for Hartley. Is he going to be able to make a nudge up inside of Schwenke? No, he's not, but he's certainly maintaining that gap as minimal as he can get. He wants to be inside the trunk of the leading BMW.
All right, as our 2 leaders come across the line, completing lap number 12, starting lap number 13. Again, Travis Schwenke with 4 wins on the season, with Robert Hartley. Took the very first round of this season, Larry, when we were at Road Atlanta. And good run for these drivers already as they continue to stretch things out. Running right around a 30 flat right now, and we're watching his Horn and Thorman maybe a couple hundredths off, not much. They're still, again, keeping somewhat similar pace to our top 2 drivers. Bobby Childs running back though, Larry, in 5th position overall. You can see he's dropped out of the frame now. He is considerably further back, although again running similar pace to his 2 teammates ahead. He is now fallen almost 8.5 seconds back from Horn and Thorman.
Well, I can tell you, we've seen this in the past with these guys not in the same class, but they are teammates. We have seen where Brennan has yielded to his teammates and given them an opportunity to fight for the rest of the pro class, which tells me that these 2 have confidence that Brennan can maintain this pace as the lead car in this pair. So the only reason that they may swap is if there's any kind of a fuel saving opportunity by switching places that would maybe allow Brennan to get that same bit of aid there. But right now he must be quick enough. I think he's doing right, running consistently right around the 30.0 to 30.2 mark. So solidly pulling the pace along there for the pair. It's just those 2 Orion guys right now are just on another level. They cracked off another 29-second lap there, pulled out another 6 or 7 tenths. That lead now from the front 2 to the next 2, about 4 seconds.
That's right, and I believe, Larry, they're coming up onto coming up to the back. Is that looking to see who that is just ahead of them?
That should be Scott Brooks in the Hyundai. Yeah. Yep. I believe he's the only Hyundai in our 5-car TCR field, and that is a Honda TCR. That should be Horvath,
who was running 3rd in TCR last time we checked in, Larry. He was right with Brandon Whitworth and Eric Violet. And it looks like he may, from what we just saw there, he may be having some connectivity issues, possibly, that might have affected that.
He was struggling to keep his tires connected to pavement there, if nothing else. But he does look like he's running well now, so we'll see how far back he ends up. Right now he's about 4 seconds back. I think this is all going to be on this lap. It looked like maybe he got wide around the back end of the track down there, maybe around the Westfield turn or something.
Yeah, and you can see that there was the tail end of Whitworth ahead, but as you mentioned, a little bit under 4 seconds now separating Nick Horvath from our leaders, Violet and Whitworth. Is again, we're seeing Schwenke and Hartley, the 2 Orion Racing BMWs, starting to make their way through slower traffic. And wow, that is, Larry, his standard line that he's been taking every lap this race, Travis Schwenke. When he comes through that Paddock Hill bend, he's got that car all the way over to with the left wheels all the way in the dirt. And as best I can tell, he hasn't picked up any off tracks yet.
Basically the right line through there. In fact, there's almost like a bottoming out. If you try to go track center down that hill, you actually do want to drive all the way out and almost touch the gravel trap on your track left. The issue becomes if you get too much into it, you're going to spin and hit the wall, probably either stay on that side, hit the wall on your left. Either way, it's not going to be a good outcome. That's a good line if you watch him just straddle the curbing almost on the exit of the Paddock Hill bend is the right way. But there's a lot of weirdness to a lot of these lines. You watch these guys now coming down to Sheen Curve, and again, they're just going to attack that apex. But then, hot lava, don't touch it on the outside. The grass is dangerous. But again, as you get down to Sterling's, it's crossed the apex hard with 4 wheels almost. Hit the exit with at least 2 wheels, if not even touch the inside wheels at the outside. There's a whole lot of ways you just have to use every ounce that this track maker is giving you if you want to be faster. Because if not, it will cost you 8/10 or a full second lap if you try to stay within the pretty white lines.
So far, they've been keeping them within the pretty gray lines or dirt lines out there, I guess.
It's a whole lot of gray lines around this place in terms of where the real track limits are. It's all a big gray line.
Well, it's funny, Larry, as I'm just watching it again. Our off-track counts are not necessarily what iRacing is assigning, but it could be it's fairly accurate. That I have not seen any incident points assigned yet to Schwenke or Hartley, nor to Chris Thorman, who has now decided to take the point from Brendan Horn. So move Thorman up into 3rd, and his teammate Brendan Horn's going to concede that, drop back in the 4th, still leading in AM. But Brendan Horn showing 5 incident points, and as I'm looking to see whether or not he might have slid off track when Thorman went by, and I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so. He only lost about a second off of his regular pace. That may have been a bit of a coordinated flip. Maybe he's just trying to save some tires for later, and it's better to be the trailing car at this stage. Who knows? But they seem to have got it worked out. Bobby Childs behind them seems to be on pace. He's now cracked another lap into the 29s. Still 11 seconds back, though, from his teammates. 7 from his teammates in front of him, 11 from the leader. So Bobby got some ground to make up, but he's currently running there in second in the M category behind his teammate.
All right, Larry. Nick Horvath, who we saw have that off a little bit earlier, he has taken his car into the pit lane, and he has been there for a while. It looks like he is either getting some repairs or taking on some fuel here. We anticipated that the pit window for the TCR car is a very wide pit window, anywhere between lap 8 and lap 30, and the TCR cars, well, the TCR car of Horvath currently working going to be finishing up lap 15 when he comes out of the pits.
Yeah, unfortunate for him to have any kind of issue because he was running so well here at the early stage of this race. He is now, looks like he's pulling out of the pits 51 seconds, so if he had damage, perhaps it wasn't too much. I also noticed that Tom Jenkins has made his way back out of the track, as had Brad Husty and David Payton. So while they had some extended stays in the pits, and they were several laps down, maybe 10 or 12 or 14 laps down, but they are back in the field.
All right there. And again, we want to apologize. We know we're having some issues with our graphics package. Hopefully we'll have that back before the race is over. But again, we're watching right now Eric Violette, Brandon Whitworth, who also appear to be running some very consistent laps, Larry, down in the they've been running in the mid to high 32s fairly consistently. At one point, both of these drivers were down around 132.3, 132.5. So all within a second here. And again, they have a lot less to worry about right now with Horvath dropping back and then pitting in. They have almost a 20-second advantage right now over our new third-place runner, which is John Sterling.
All right. Well, David Payton, by the way, is back in the pits for the second time. Perhaps the repairs weren't quite enough for him. We'll see if he decides to stay in there and call it quits for the night. But interesting thing about these, we mentioned earlier how this track doesn't have a ton of just straightaways, like we had at Road America. This place is a little bit more twisty turning all along the way. And what that does, it pulls the lap times of our GT4s, TCRs a little bit closer together. You mentioned these two cars here at the lead, the TTD guys here in TCRs, Violet Whitworth, they're running right around that 33-second mark. The leaders of these two right here, the Orion cars, those BMWs, they're running anywhere from a 30.0 to maybe a high 30. Less than 3 seconds separating the leaders of these classes, which means we're not getting a ton of interaction.
No.
It also means that when they do catch them, they can be careful about where they're going to make that pass, not really worry about losing a lot of time, because I suspect as they go through the southern part of the track down there at the Westfield kink, the Sheen curve, as those blind crests, kinks are, they're probably all running about the same speed.
Right.
The differences between the GT4s and the TCR is going to come on those two straightaways, from Surtees down to Hawthorne and from Sterling's down to Clark. Those are really the two areas you're going to find some significant differences between these, but all the way through the long kink sections, I bet the TCRs are just as fast, if not faster. Looks like Hartley reset fastest lap of the race a moment ago to 29.52, running there in second spot behind Schwenke as they opened up again another half a second or so, as the gap now is almost 4 full seconds between the front two Orions and the next two D2Ds of Thorman and Horan.
All right, and Larry, guess what has reappeared magically?
We have live timing.
Woohoo!
Thank you, boys. Working hard in the background.
Yeah, I want to thank we want to thank the two Johns, Jonathan Grabowski and John Robertson, for getting us back up and running while also still trying to cover all the action here as well. So good on them here as Travis Schwenke and Robert Hartley, Larry, continued to throw down some flyers. Schwenke just ran his personal best lap of the race, a 129.6. Robert Hartley fastest overall at a 129.52, and that is 52, and that is almost a full second. I was going to say almost a full second, less than that. A couple hundredths faster than Thorman and Horan. That as soon as Schwenke and Hartley threw down those laps, Thorman and Horan were very quick to match them. So we'll see here. Again, they haven't been able to close the gap down, however, as we watch again Violet and Whitworth also putting down very quick laps. That last time by, though, Whitworth, who's our second place runner in class there in the aquamarine and gray car, was almost half a second faster than Violet that last time by.
Yeah, well, not much going to separate these guys. We'll see what ends up being the difference maker between them. But right now, they're certainly running their own bit of race. But in the third spot in that class is John Sterling, about 20 seconds back from the front pair. There he is in his D-Dub liveried Honda Civic. And in fourth spot is Scott Brooks in that Hyundai out there turning laps. Not really anybody near Scott at this point.
No, they are fairly well separated out, and I don't think they're in traffic at the moment. But a big gap, almost I think almost 20 seconds separating right now. Brooks from the Civic of Corvette.
So while these two of Sterling, Horvath though has done his pit stop. His pace looks fine. His last tap by was a 33.4. Similar to the pace of these two, the D2D leaders of Violet and Whitworth. So Horvath, if he had any damage, seems to have gotten over it. And now that he's done his pit stop, he should be good to the finish. We'll see how far back from the leaders that he is, considering he did have a spin and a slow lap or two. So we'll see if he's going to be anywhere near them come the end. The battle might be for third place, Sterling and Brooks.
All right, and Larry, I'm trying to double check, but it looks like Robert Brist may have just encountered some issues, and looks like he's just now gotten that car back underway and has decided to bring his car into the pit lane. The number 51 machine going to be pitting in from 7th in AM, 15th overall. And let's do this, Larry. We're coming up on the top of the hour. We're just about 2.5 minutes shy, as we've got John Casey in the number 78 Frito Sport machine coming in for his pit stop as well. Let's quickly take a break to thank some of our partners and sponsors, and when we come back, we'll bring you all the way to the checkered flag here from Brands Hatch in the GP circuit, where you are watching round number 7 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series presented by Performa Texas Elite Graphics, and we'll be right back.
Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name brand parts. Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com. Ricmotech high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
The search is over. The most comprehensive league scoring solution is here, with the ability for multi-level championships, custom incident tracking, post-race time penalties, support for heats, drop weeks display, multi-car team scoring, advanced web widgets, rookie championships, a custom paint system, and load those results in seconds. Visit extremescoring.info today.
And welcome back to Brands Hatch in the GP circuit, where you're watching the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series presented by Performa Texas Elite Graphics. I'm Greg Ginsberg, along with Larry Lefty McLeod. And Larry, as we rejoin the action here, although we're looking at the pit lane where I think we had Stephen May and David Payton and I believe Chad Osborne and his BMW decided to pit in. We did have our two TCR leaders, Eric Violette and Brandon Whitworth, come in for probably will be their only stop, and we were both kind of commenting that it's a lot earlier than they normally do.
They pulled a fast one on us and decided to go out of their norm and come in early for it, but it means you don't get to see it on the screen, but you do get to see that they're exactly like they were before the pit stops, like nothing ever happened, half a second between them, with Eric Violet still in the lead. In fact, their pit times were within a tenth or two. I mean, these guys literally are identical. You can't put a piece of paper between them tonight.
Yeah, exactly. They came in identically. Now, typically their strategy is when one comes in, the other one will stay out in order for the other driver to pick up a bonus point for leading a lap. But when they came in, Larry, they had over a minute's margin and advantage over third place runner John Sterling. And it really didn't matter, because when they left the pit lane, they were still leading. They never actually conceded their positions.
Yeah, well, Sterling did make his stop, as you mentioned. He's still in third, about 30 seconds or so back from the two front leaders, and there he is in the D-Dub Honda Civic. He is currently ahead of, about 14 seconds ahead of Nick Horvath, and Nick is running some pretty quick times. He's about a second a lap or so faster than Sterling, but at this stage of the race, I don't know if there's enough time at that pace for Nick to do any damage. Sterling just has to keep on keeping on to maybe come home at a podium spot. Nick will make an effort there. Nick did, however, get past Scott Brooks as our leader of the race. Travis Schwenke is in the pits.
Here we go, and that is going to move Robert Hartley up into the lead. Chris Thorman in the second, Brendan Horn into third. And we'll see how this plays out. The one thing that we've seen is that the Orion racers, whether it be Schwenke or Dam or Hartley, they are all very, very astute, very, very good at fuel maintenance and pit stop maintenance here over the course of this season. We'll see as Schwenke now rejoins. He's out of the box, and it looks like he's going to be able to, I was going to say he's going to have plenty of time to get out in front of Chuck Labano, but it looks like Labano has come in for his pit stop as well, and we had Bobby Childs there, so Schwenke's going to rejoin in fifth position.
Lobano makes a good stop right there. We'll see where Lobano comes out relative to Bobby, as Bobby's already gone by, having already made his stop. That would be the position that Chuck wants. Currently, as Chuck came in, he would like to make sure he stays on the podium, but if he can somehow catch Bobby before the end of this race, that'd be great. But you can see Bobby there already.
Yeah, matter of fact, Bobby was just leaving his pit stall when Lobano was coming in. So Childs there already with his stop, and Lobano now on his way out and in the stall, a bit longer than Bobby Childs, about a second longer than Childs.
All right.
And now Hartley comes in after Schwenke did, and I don't think Schwenke took tires, Larry.
I don't think he did, but is Hartley?
I saw Hartley go up on the jack, and that would add about 4 seconds to the pit time. We'll see here. Brennan Horn had brought his car in from 4th position. He still leads in AM, and we'll see the difference, I think, between the two.
Here comes Schwenke down the main straight. There goes Hartley.
And Robert Hartley is going to
just in front.
Assume the lead, yes. Well, he's going to assume the lead over Travis Schwenke, and we assume that when Chris Thorman, who's our current leader, and Jeff Jacobs cycle through for their pit stops, that will move Hartley up into the lead.
Those two are the only two remaining in the field that have not yet made their stops. He tells me they probably will this next time on by, but there you have a good shot of all 4 of the leaders, the provisional leaders, the expected leaders in GT4 Pro with Hartley and Schwenke, and then of course the 2 leaders in TCR, Violet, Whitworth, right behind them.
Yeah, and Larry, once again, and we've seen this, I think, time and time again. Of course, Brennan Horn having a great season with many wins, but he found himself in the pit lane much longer than the 2 Orion racers. His pit stop was almost 4 seconds longer than certainly 4 seconds longer than Schwenke, and 5 seconds longer than Hartley's.
Even 4 seconds longer than his teammate Bobby Childs in a very similar Mercedes. So I'm wondering what's going on there. Oh no, that's Whitworth, and that is a lot of damage on that right front.
Yes, he does. There's a lot of damage in the right front of that car, and he is trying to find his way through the gravel trap, and I think he's going to try to limp the car home rather than getting the tow, Larry. But for the moment, he is still holding on to second, but at that pace, I can't imagine it going for very much longer. As John Sterling, though, is, and maybe with a little bit of luck here, Sterling about 40 seconds back from the 42 machine, who now makes it up to the pits. And, I'm thinking he might have had an issue, Larry, right at the same place that we saw those 2 other big shunts coming out of Sheen.
We'll get back to that in a minute. I do want to talk about the lead, as Chris Thorman has come back into the race in the lead after his pit stop. We'll get to them in a second. There's the replay. Whitworth, you see him just catching grass on the exit, hitting the wall on the inside. We've seen that so many times tonight.
Yeah,
the exit of Sheen is just a brutal place.
But there you go. Chris Thorman comes off of his pit stop in the lead ahead of both Robert Hartley and Travis Schwenke. And this is something, Larry, I don't think either of us had expected.
No, I tell you
once
what,
they cycled through.
His pit time was 2 seconds faster than the Orion cars. He's right in the 20s, so he's taking on a little less fuel. And I wonder if perhaps his in-laps were a little bit quicker than what the Orion guys are doing. The Orions may have been coming up on some traffic, perhaps. Maybe that was one of the things that led them to split their stops. But whatever it was, Chris Thorman has done what he needed to do and now leads this race with about 19 minutes left.
And the question is going to be, can he hold them off for almost another 20 minutes? Here from Brands Hatch, and
not the easiest track to pass on, right?
No.
If you're not wanting somebody to get by, you're probably not going to unless they really stuff it in somewhere. So Thorman's going to have to be super careful. At this point, you're better off being conservative around here,
right?
And hitting your exit points
and back everybody else up behind.
Yeah, it's one of those places that just doesn't have the next straightaway here. Is the best straightaway there is, but even at the end of it, it's a high-speed entry through Hawthorne, which doesn't exactly lead to great passing opportunities. This isn't exactly the Road America straight that ends in a turn one. That
you have to have the pass made long before you come back up after that compression there to set up for this corner.
So
and
the
there
other
just
spots,
isn't enough length there to do it.
Yeah, the other spots, if you come through Sterling's, often you can get a pretty good run. If you risk reward it and you get a great run off of Sterling's, the left-hander coming up after the sequence, perhaps you can stuff a nose in when you get down to Clark. But you better be right on it. You better hit that exit. Otherwise, it isn't going to be there. We'll see what kind of run this time by for Hartley, if he can at least close the gap and see if there's anything. But this is one of those places as they go down through clearways into Clark that maybe you could stuff a nose in, only because Clark is kind of a medium speed corner. At least maybe you can stuff the nose in. Paddock Hill Bend, probably not the place to try it. But if you get a good run, or if the lead car gets a mistake, maybe you get an opportunity as you go to Druids. But I'll tell you, this is a tough place to make a pass.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you shove the nose in going in the Druids right over here, I hasten to call it a hairpin because it's still a much larger turn, but
it's kind of like a turn one of VIR sort of hairpin.
Yeah.
It's a hairpin, but it's not exactly like the keyhole in Ohio sort of a hairpin. It's got a little bit more width to it. But I tell you what, this place it's tough to pass in the same way, a track you mentioned earlier, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, where it's very fast, high speed. You got the turn 2, turn 3, a lot of it's high speed drama type corners, but you can't get a pass in anymore. This is a lot like Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
You have to wait for the driver ahead to make a mistake, and and if they're going to, I think we know exactly where it would likely be.
Yeah, past results are indicative of future performance. That would be the spot that everyone's going to be struggling with tonight.
If you're looking to buy race car insurance,
you only need to buy one corner's worth of insurance. That's the corner.
That's the corner.
Well, they let you do that when you buy race car insurance. Can you just insure for
just
one corner?
One corner, yeah.
I need the rest of these corners. It's just the one. I just need a Sheen insurance. Give me a Sheen policy. Not a Tiger Blood drinking Sheen, but a Sheen curve.
Oh, that's funny.
Although, if I'm hanging out that Sheen drinking Tiger Blood, I probably need my insurance up to date too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, what this has done is, the incident there with Whitworth, who is, by the way, still in the pits, and that is Travis Schwenke, who led this race for so long. He's off. No contact, but he's going to lose a lot of track position. He's going to have a Brennan Horan on his tail momentarily. So what was a 3-car battle is now 2, and that might ease things up a little bit for Chris Thorman. That he doesn't have to worry about both of the Orion racers. And now going off, that's Chad Osborne.
Oh, no.
And that is over at Sheen Curve. He is going off to the exact same place.
Yeah, he just calls the toe, as it was probably the best move there. Every time he poked out, there was somebody coming by of significance. That last significant, of course, was the leaders in GT4 Pro with Chris Thorman and Hartley. Wow, well, I'll tell you what. So, with Schwenke going and spinning and taking himself out of this, it actually takes the pressure off of Hartley, because he's not the middle in that threesome where if he makes a move that doesn't work, he's giving up a spot. Now he can pick and choose where he wants to attack. Much easier as in a 2-car battle as the chaser than if you're in a 3. As they're coming up on Stephen May and I think it's Scott Brooks. 2 cars in front there. TCR and Brooks, and May and his AMG. And they have the leaders behind them. Let's see how this plays out. 3 classes interacting.
Winning.
P4AM. We're not at that corner yet.
Okay.
All right, everybody's made their way through. Of course, May will still have to get his way around that TCR of Brooks, but that could wait till another corner. They have let the GT4 Pro guys on through.
All right, so if we go and reset the field, and Larry, we're running out of cars on the lead lap in GT4 right now. The only remaining cars on the lead lap in GT4: Chris Thorman, Robert Hartley, Travis Schwenke. That's your top three, all in pro, and Schwenke now almost 10 seconds back as he got that car back underway from our 2 leaders. Brennan Horn currently running fourth, about another 6 seconds back from Travis Schwenke. He is your leader in AM, with Bobby Childs, his D2D teammate, running 5th overall, second in class. Then Jeff Jacobs and Chuck Labano. Labano running 3rd in AM. And that's it. The top 7 drivers, they're the only ones still on the lead lap.
And a lot of attrition here tonight, and a lot of it at the hands of the Sheen. But we'll see what the next 12 minutes or so brings. 12 and a half is about what's left in this before we reach the final hour of this 1 hour. And this is going to be a pretty intense battle between these two right here. Best battle on the track. Thorman and Hartley, a D2D leading in Orion here at Brands Hatch. The 82 of Horvath also out there running, trying to do what he can to catch, to stay with Sterling up in front of him. Don't know if he's going to have enough pace to get there. Good run there for Hartley. I don't know if it's going to be enough to shove his nose on the inside, but he's looking for any kind of flaw in the armor of Chris Thorman. Thorman right now is hitting his marks like he needs to do.
And Larry, you see there that Race Control's taking a look at an incident between Stephen May in the number 5 Mercedes, and I believe it's the 49 Hyundai of Scott Brooks. We didn't see what happened there. Might have a replay of it, hopefully, but
looks like it was reviewed without further action. But that was the twosome that was in front of our GT4 Pro leaders when they were going down that long straightaway. We know that they let the 2 leaders by in the same order, with the 49 in the TCR Scott Brooks leading Stephen May in the number 5. At some point they did swap. I thought it was on the main front straight, but perhaps there was some contact. At least the race marshals deemed no further action necessary.
It looks like now I'm getting our graphics package repaired, Larry. It looks like we brought back the messages from Race Control that we've been missing all season. So you get something new every day.
So what the Johns are doing their work tonight, earning their keep for sure. Yeah. So what our viewers don't know is they're also repairing the entire Apex Racing TV network. Not just our one broadcaster working on here, but all the software. They're doing it all tonight, folks.
We've got the best with us here this evening. We're on board with Robert Hartley. We now, Larry, 10 minutes remaining here from Brands Hatch, and it is Chris Thorman from D2D eRacing, the number 60 Aston Martin. He's your leader. We're on board with Robert Hartley, who's running 2nd. Travis Schwenke running a distant 3rd, about 10 seconds back from our 2 leaders, now actually 11.5 seconds, with Jeff Jacobs 4th. And a very distant 5th, sitting in the sitting on the pit lane, running 5th right now. David Payton with 3 laps in the books. He's 30 laps down currently. In AM, there it is. Brendan Horn, your leader. Bobby Childs, his teammate from D2D. They're running 1st and 2nd right now in their Mercedes AMG GT4s, with about 7.5 seconds separating them, with Chuck Labano running in 3rd. And again, Brendan Horn looking for his 5th win of the season, 5 out of 7.
This will be a interesting last 9 minutes here between these two to see if Hartley's got any opportunity, because I can tell you what, they are putting down some pretty quick lap times right now. Thorman's last time by was a 29.2. He has already best lap of the race at a 29.1. He definitely ate his Wheaties before this race here tonight. He's put on a pretty good display so far, 34 laps in.
They're coming up, it looks like, on the back. I think that's the 51 of Brist that they're coming up on as they come through that that hairpin at Druids.
Be the most interesting bit of this last couple minutes is they're going to have to make some passes. They're going to have to get around some traffic. Just obviously being one of them, but there's going to be some others, I think, in the next couple of laps to have to contend with.
We'll see a couple more up ahead going down in the Hawthorns, or just the car was going through Hawthorns. They're going to probably come up on them before they get to the start-finish line. Sure which car that was. And Brennan Horn went his way around Scott Brooks in the Hyundai.
So just a bit of a handful at this stage of the race for Brennan Horn, just pitching that AMG with the beautiful sounds of it, kicking it around those high-speed kinks here at the south end of the track. Just amazing to watch that thing just get chucked around. It's a lot of car. Oof. And that looked like the 5 of Stephen May. Off track left just in front of Brennan as he was going down between Sterling's and Clark. It's still a little bit crazy out there. Let's see what happens to May if he's able to recover. And these two look like they've got what might be a Horvath.
Yeah, Horvath ahead of him. And I think Horvath had just dropped the wheel a couple corners before.
Well, they're going to catch him right here through this back section. I was saying earlier, as I think the TCRs are going to be a similar pace to the GT4s around here. We'll see what kind of pace that Horvath has through Westfield into Sheen. Look at that, pretty good clip. The other two GT4s haven't quite caught him yet, but they're going to now.
Yeah, and he dropped the wheel on the exit curbing there, gave a little bit of wiggle, and that was enough for the GT4 cars to well,
there's a traffic
to
jam
almost
now.
get by.
Yeah, there's a traffic jam there at Clark. Boy, that got a little bit dicey for a moment.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have wanted to be the one hung out to dry on the outside there. Like
he was trying to stay out there. I can tell you what, that outside line has got no grip. Anybody that's ever tried to make a pass out there knows that that outside grip goes away in a hurry. But all's all settled.
They all made it work. 2.5 men there.
As we are now about 5 minutes left on the clock. So maybe 4 laps.
Yeah, well, like at at about 1.5 minutes.
If we include this one,
clip, yeah.
2 more laps after, we'll see if that's what it ends up being. But I don't know. At some point, Hartley's going to have to either make a move or settle for second. If he's the settling type. In front of them is the 78 of John Casey. Pre-race interview. He's got himself right in the mix of the heat of this battle, coming down to the wire at the end of this race. I don't know if he wanted to be there in his strategy to stay clean. Hopefully his strategy was clean and stay out of the way of the leaders, because they're coming.
That's right. So Casey currently running 2 laps down from our leaders, just ahead of him, about ready to go 3 laps down, and is currently 5th in GT4M. And he not only pulls over, but gets out of the throttle. But look at this, Brennan Horn.
He's doing a rallycross down somewhere near Westfield and Sheen. That's Sheen right there, so that must have been coming out of Westfield. Just didn't quite catch that that exit pavement well enough. Don't think he made any contact.
No, it looked like he managed to keep it away from the Armco there and stay in the grass, which I'm amazed that he was able to maneuver that car at that speed through the grass without it going around. But he is going to cross the stripe, and he is still running 4th overall. But the 10 plus second lead that he had over teammate Bobby Childs, well, that has now evaporated. The gap is now about 2.5 seconds separating them. 2.7 seconds. If you take a look at our timing tower here, I don't know though, Larry, with with 2, possibly 3 laps to go, whether or not it's going to be enough.
We'll see if Bobby's got any aggression left in him at this stage of the race to make a run on his teammates. And that may be the other part to this, is they are teammates, so he may be thinking, you just keep doing your thing up there, Brennan. You can have this position, just don't do it again. But for Bobby, with just a couple minutes left, I don't know that he wants to push too hard. He might be happy sitting in second spot. Looks like Hartley is just trying to throw a hitch to Chris Thorman in front of him and see if he can find any weakness, any way to get on by as they come around and start their 38th lap of the night. Hartley just sets the fastest lap of the race in that last one, 29.13.
And Larry, with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock, looks like it's going to be 2 more laps here to go.
Yeah. And for Hartley, that's a good thing, that giving himself just a few more corners, another opportunity somewhere for Thorman to make a mistake is what he needs, because as we've seen, this place just does not allow a whole lot of passes otherwise. It's just not a lot of speed changing, speed variation over the corner. It's very much just sort of a momentum type track, and that's the most difficult kind to make passes on. They've been racing at a pretty good clip at this stage of the race, running mid to low 29s for about the last 10 laps.
Yeah, they've been able to stay in that range, and we saw where Thorman had when he and Horan were working together, was able to maintain the pace of the 2 Orion racers, Hartley and Schwenke. And again, even if he backed it up.
Yeah, you go back to when Thorman, Brennan Horn was actually leading Thorman.
Hello, Larry. Here we go.
Oh boy!
As Hartley comes down to the inside on the number 60 machine, coming out of Clark, and cannot quite get close enough. He's going to follow through. Actually, they were
white flag
coming in clearways. Here we go. Last lap here at Brands Hatch, and Chris Thorman's your leader. Robert Hartley running in second. Was that move the only opportunity he was going to have?
Horan. Again, it's Sheen.
And Horan goes around, and a number of other drivers letting out the throttle a little bit. And that is going to move Jeff Jacobs now up into the lead in AM. Brendan Horn for the moment in second, and can chuck Labano. Well, Labano's got almost 35 seconds he's got to make up. But for the moment, Chris Thorman leads the number 3 BMW of Hartley around. They've got just a few more corners to go.
So they're heading on their way down to Hawthorne Hill. It's Bobby Childs now leading in that AM category, with Brennan Horn and Chuck Labano running second, third. But this battle out front has not changed at all. But we know that there's an opportunity. I mentioned it when this battle started, that if there's going to be a pass, Sterling's to Clark, which is where that last lap looked like it got close. Maybe that's where Hartley can make his move if he can get a great run, set up off of the next corner, Sterling's, for a run to the end. Let's see what he's got.
That's it, and that's what he did the last time. He popped to the inside. This time he pops out to driver's left. Going to try and make the move around the outside. Can the number 60 machine cover? He's going to try and hold him off. Can the BMW get the run from the long way around? And as they come to the line, the 60 comes across the nose of the 3, and taking the win is going to be Chris Thorman. Margin of victory, 8/100ths of a second, 82 thousandths of a second, separating them at the line. Travis Schwenke, he's going to come home in third, and now we're on board with Bobby Childs, who found himself the leader in AM with 2 laps to go.
Come on, Bobby. I want to interview you tonight. Come on. Let's go see this checker flag we get to interview Bobby Childs.
And here we go. Bobby Childs comes onto the front straight. He's going to take the win for D2D E-Racing. First win of the year for the driver of the number 88 machine. And Brendan Horn and Jeff Jacobs, they're fighting it out at the line here. Again, this is not for position in class. This is overall.
Even.
As they are just beating and banging the 2 SCCA guys here. And Brendan Horn, he manages to hold Jeff Jacobs off at the line. And Larry, since we don't have the interclass mixing there, it looks like 0.02 of a second separating them. And in TCR, it's going to look good for the photos, but it is not going to be this way overall, Larry. Eric Violette takes the win in TCR, finishing second in TCR. A lap down is John Sterling, with Nick Horvath coming home in third. And we were just watching there as we had Brandon Whitworth follow his teammate across the line. Oh, look at the drift there. But Brandon Whitworth comes home in fifth in TCR, a number of laps down after that earlier spin over by Sheen. But great run tonight for Thorman and Hartley. And again, congratulations to Bobby Childs on his first race win of the season. Larry, let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to some of our podium finishers here from Brands Hatch, where you've just seen the finish of round number 7 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sportscar Series, presented by Performance Texas Elite Graphics, and we'll be right back.
Allow Extreme Scoring to do the work for you.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. Whether you're just looking to have fun, train for race day, or become a serious esports competitor, Ricmotech has you covered. Hundreds of name-brand parts. Support from experts that love sim racing. Trusted by the pros. There's only one place to go, Ricmotech.com.
The search is over. The most comprehensive league scoring solution is here, with the ability for multi-level championships, custom incident tracking, post-race time penalties, support for heats, drop weeks display, multi-car team scoring, advanced web widgets, rookie championships, a custom paint system, and load those results in seconds. Visit extremescoring.info today.
And welcome back to Brands Hatch, where you just seen the finish of round number 7 of the Extreme Motorsports Ricmotech Sports Car Series, presented by Performa Texas Elite Graphics. And let's recap how this ended up with Chris Thorman running a real strong race. Great defense on Robert Hartley for the last 5 laps or so there. Hartley's going to finish in second. Travis Schwenke, who had his problems, about 7 laps remaining. Schwenke from Orion Racing will come home in third. Bobby Childs takes the win in GT4 AM, with Brennan Horn coming home in second, finishing third. Chuck Labano, so another podium finish for Chuck Labano there. And in TCR, taking the win, Eric Violette for D2D E-Racing in his Honda Civic Type R. John Sterling finishing in second. Nick Horvath finishing in third. And where I think at TCR, that's the class that I don't think anybody wanted to finish on the podium today, except for maybe Eric Violette. Let's do this. Let's take a look and see who we have waiting for us in the green room. And Larry,
nobody wants to talk to us.
Nobody wants to.
They do. They just, they're fighting over it. See who gets to talk first.
Yeah, you would think Bobby Childs would have been in here with like 5 laps to go, but
we'll give them a minute.
Larry, while we're waiting to see if anybody shows up, and we'll talk about it a little bit more when we go and give the rundown of what events we have coming up. I wanted to mention that the newly renamed Ricmotech Club Sport Series, what used to be known as the Classic Sprint Series, but new for this year, we're going to have both the Global MX-5 Cup cars as well as the brand new Toyota GR86 Cup cars, who, by the way, in real life just had their debut in Sonoma this weekend, and it looked like some great racing. The registration for the Club Sport Series has just opened. If you want to go to xmsracing.com/clubsport-series, you too can sign up. So don't dawdle. Go, but listen to these interviews first. All right, Larry, we've got a bunch of people waiting for us now. Finally, yep. Let's do this. Let's start off with GT4 AM, and we are going to start off with our second place finisher in class from D2D eRacing, Brennan Horn.
Brennan Horn. This was going to be a very different interview about 10 minutes ago. Tell me a little bit about you. Ended up coming back into second spot. Had a good little fight there at the end, actually, for overall with Jeff Jacobs. But Brennan, tell me a little bit about the last 10 minutes or so and how that end of the race went.
I was feeling pretty good. Like usual, I took a little bit too much fuel, but that was just, I have way too much safety margin in my spreadsheet, so I'll have to man up and turn that down a little bit. But yeah, I was feeling pretty good. Gaps behind were staying the same. Gaps ahead were staying the same. Then I went wide at one point. I think it went down to like 4 seconds with Bobby. And then going into that fast right-hander where I ended up spinning, I think I dabbed the brakes a little bit too hard, and it kind of went into ice mode or something, and the car just didn't stop. So went wide there, ended up spinning, and then Bobby went by, Jeff went by, and then I managed to fight my way up to Bobby, and, well, you guys saw the end. It was pretty good, so...
Yeah, you managed to recover that corner that you went off. I think there was about 15 offs on that same corner at Sheen tonight. It was a rough place, but you managed to get back up and still stay on the podium at the end of this race. All in all, a pretty good result, and I know as a team, you guys are going to be pretty happy. We got a lot of your teammates to talk to here tonight. Anybody you want a special thanks you want to give here tonight?
Well, D2D eRacing, obviously, Bobby, Chris, David, Brandon, and Eric. And giant shout out to Chris because he won the race, and that was awesome. It was great performance, and I think I was holding him up there at the beginning because once I let him by, he just drove right away, and I would have felt really bad if he lost that race by a second or two because they probably made him lose that much time at the beginning. But yeah, big shout out to him. Congrats to him. Ricmotech for supporting this series, Extreme for putting on this series, you guys for the great broadcast, my family for their support, and yeah, again, big shout out to Chris because that was awesome.
Absolutely, I can't wait to talk to him here in a few minutes. But for yourself, a solid podium finish there in second spot here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, there you go, Brennan Horn finishing second tonight in AM. And that means, Larry, for better or for worse, and I think it's going to be for better. Let's talk to our winner in GT4 AM tonight, Bobby Childs. Get ready. We just warned
everybody, turn their volume down. Bobby Childs taking the win in GT4 AM. Bobby, talk to me. What do you think?
That's what I think, man. Holy cow, what a night. What a night for this team. Oh, my gosh, man. I can't even.
Yeah, I mean, it was not without incidents all around. You had your issues early, Brennan had his issues late, but you guys, at least in the AM category, had it covered. And we're going to talk to that guy, Chris, in a few minutes. But I want to talk to you about your race in AM. And you're just plugging away as that race went on, just waiting for it to come to you. Was that the idea? Just keep turning laps, see where it ends up?
Sorta, yeah. I actually spent the off time that we had rebuilding my racing rig to get it a little more ergonomic, to get it more comfortable, following some guidelines put out there by the great up-and-coming Daniel Morad. And man, it was just, I was so comfortable. Everything looked so good. I felt completely different tonight behind the wheel. And, other than that one off track I really had, I was, at that point, I felt like I was going to keep up with everybody. But then, the pace fell off a little bit after I had my off. And then once Chris got in front of Brennan, they took off. And after that, it was just, making sure I got back around Jeff clean and making sure I drove the rest of the way clean to try to take advantage of anything that may happen. And, man, it worked out perfect.
Yes, it did. Awesome job tonight to come from behind and take that victory there in GT4 AM. It's great to have you back. We miss you. You've been taking some weeks off, doing some things. Glad to hear the rig is working well for you. But I'm sure you got some folks you want to thank and give shout-outs to here for this victory.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it, man. The biggest shout out, of course, to Chris Thorman. Dude has been plugging away for so long. He's been such a big part of this league. He's a co-sponsor. When we put the team together and we were looking for sponsorship, he said, you know what, I got this. And he picked up the entire team. The man is just, I can't think of anyone that deserves this more. I'm not even going to thank anybody else. My teammates know how I feel about him. Stubby knows how I feel about him. You guys know how I feel about you. Ryan knows how I feel about him. That's, the bottom line is Chris hit the top of Space Mountain tonight. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And tonight, Chris did it. I don't even care about my podium. I'm just so pumped for my teammate and my friend, Chris.
Awesome stuff, Bobby. Well, congratulations to you. You can enjoy this one for your own sake.
And one more.
Yeah.
I think he's got the compression turned on his mic, Larry, because every time he tries to go, woo, it completely muffles him.
I thought that was the delay we have him on. No?
How about a woo? A more subtle woo. Woo.
It just cuts it out. I just figured he was using some language we couldn't have. And
well, that's possible.
when he's celebrating, Bobby, you go celebrate tonight. Well-deserved victory for you as well as the whole D2D team.
All right, everybody. That's Bobby Childs taking the win tonight in GT4 AM.
Even though don't stick around for the interviews, they're missing the best part.
Yeah, probably the best parts. All right, let's do this. Let's move over to TCR, and we're going to talk to our second place finisher. Pardon me, driver of the number 87 Honda Civic Type R. It's John Sterling.
All right, John Sterling tonight was an interesting race. All around, a lot of folks throwing the races away. Tough to keep this thing on the track. Tell me a little bit about how your night went.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about your race. How did it go for you?
At the beginning, I was just trying to stay out of trouble. Kind of lost my starting position pretty early, so lost the lead pack of the draft, but I tried to get around the slower cars as fast as I could. And then once I did, it was more just chasing down Nick the whole race. And I'm just sweating over here, sorry. But yeah, after, I guess he ran off track or something and pitted early. And then after that, I did my pit stop and still ended up like a good 20 seconds ahead of him. So I was like, all right, so it's looking up here. And then Brandon had his incident. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm second place again.
Yeah, I tell you what, it pays to stay on the track tonight. And that one corner, if you go back and watch the race replay, you'll find that one corner bit a lot of drivers, Nick included, as well as also to Brandon. So it was great to be able to stick that around, and sometimes just plugging away and turning laps is the best strategy for you tonight. Comes home with a second spot, so a great result for you. Is this the highest finish you've had so far in the series?
Yeah, I believe last race I was also second, and it's my first 2 seconds on the road side of Extreme Motorsport. So yeah, my best results. 2 weeks in one row.
And 2 very different tracks as well. So awesome job for you tonight. Anybody you want to give a thanks to here for this?
Yeah, thank you guys for broadcasting the race. Thanks admins for everything that they do up there. Thanks Ricmotech and Proforma for sponsoring our series. Thanks GT Motorsports and Team Collusion, my buddies on the oval side and also the road side. And Casual Motorsports Type R Civic did pretty well.
Yes, it did really well. Congratulations, second spot here tonight for John Sterling.
All right, Larry, and so what that means is we now need to talk to our winner in TCR from D2D eRacing, Eric Violet.
Eric Violet, now you're a pretty humble guy, you don't always like to brag, but you had a pretty strong race tonight. You were able to hold off your teammate until he took himself out, but you guys are running at a heck of a pace up there tonight. That looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, kind of a repeat of last week, or last race. Yeah, it's unfortunate. He was doing really well, and I make a little mistake here and there, and it wasn't, not much. I only lose a couple tenths, and he's all over me, and I don't know if my tires are starting to go, but track felt like it was slicking up, and usually it's the opposite. We seem to get more grip usually as the fuel burns off, but I think just, pushing it, trying to keep out in front of him, and all of a sudden, poof, he was gone. I was like, did you touch the grass? And I'm like, so, yeah, I'll have to go see exactly what happened after that. I pretty much just asked, you done? He was like, yep. And that was like the last of the radio. I was like, okay, not saying a word here. In fact, I didn't even say anything. I was looking at the relative, and I could see Chris out there, and I know he's going to be excited to be talking to you guys. And man, I saw him in front of Hartley. I'm like, holy crap! I think he's going to win this thing. And I'm like, I didn't want to come over the radio and say anything to Brandon and jinx it or anything like that. But I saw it was like what, a couple tenths, like the whole last couple laps, and I was sitting there going, holy crap! So.
Pretty much from the pit stops to the finish, they were nose to tail. You're going to have to go back and watch. It was pretty exciting, and I can't wait to talk to him as well. But for you, Victor, I'm looking along the line of points and things, and points are up to date. I don't know that you've lost one round. I think it was the Bathurst round. But other than that, you've got wins across the board. You're going to be tough to catch. Successful season, certainly for you with one round to go here, has been really awesome. And I think the class continues to build. It looked like tonight, John and Nick had some pretty good runs there, little offs here and there, but they showed some pretty good pace. I think you got some competitors that want to take you down.
Yeah, Nick was super strong. I was in with practice, and he didn't get much practice in earlier, and we jumped in this evening, and he was already up to speed. I was like, well, dang, he's gonna be tough. But I don't know. I think maybe he touched the grass too. We put, like we were talking about earlier. It's stay off the green stuff, and it looked like it was carnage out there. I mean, I finished P9 overall.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to watch the broadcast. But it looks like a lot of people were struggling here.
Yeah. Tough night to stay on the grass, but if you can end up doing really well. And for you tonight, victory again here for you and the team. Who do you want to give a special thanks to tonight?
I'm sure Bobby already sang the praises of D2D and all that, so I'm just going to say thank you to Chris for Pro Forma Elite Texas Graphics for supporting us. I know he's anxious to get in here, and I know you guys have a long evening, so I'm going to cut it short and turn it over to him.
Well, congrats, Eric, again on the victory here in TCR tonight.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
All right, there you go, Eric Violet from D2D eRacing, your winner tonight in TCR. And Larry, I only heard Bobby Childs talking about Stubby, but I might have missed something. All right, let's bring in Chris Thorman, driver of the number 60 D2D eRacing Aston Martin, and he is our overall winner in GT4 Pro tonight here from Brands Hatch.
So Chris Thorman, if there's a guy who's been at this longer, I'd like to know who it is, because as long as we've been calling these, you've been in these races. This team, we just talked to a bunch of your teammates. They just kept talking about you and how important you are to this team, and now you get that golden victory. Tell me a little bit about what's going through your mind right now.
I just can't believe it. I try so hard. I put in so many practice laps to try to do this. I can't say I never dreamed of it. I have, but somehow I did it.
Yeah, it was incredible. So you go into the pit stops, and we're expecting those guys in Orion to come out in front of you by a couple seconds. You did that overcut to perfection, come out right in front of them, but you got to spend the last 15, 20 minutes of this thing with a Hartley on your tail. What's the strategy there to hold him off?
Well, for most of the time, I just did what I do. I can't worry about everybody else. I just put my face in the track and go. And that's what I was doing until the last couple laps there. And Hartley's back there jumping from mirror to mirror, and I start worrying that I start messing up. I just try to keep my head down and go.
Yeah, I mean, you on radio with anybody else? You know what's happening with Brennan and Bobby, or are you just totally locking them out and doing your thing?
Well, we're all on a radio, but once I took the lead, everybody just kept their mouth shut.
It's like a pitcher in baseball.
They were all afraid of messing me up because I don't have enough brain cells to listen and drive at the same time.
I say it's like a pitcher in baseball. He's got to know hitter.
Larry says the same thing about me, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you got not enough brain cells, there's a bit of a Greg going on there. But tonight,
it takes everything in me to complete the laps. I can't worry about the cars behind me. I can't worry about what anybody's saying. I just block everything out and try to drive.
Yeah, unbelievable. To come on victorious tonight, a well-executed race. You were behind Brennan for a while. Brennan lets you around. You start laying down your laps, and suddenly you find yourself in the lead. Victory is yours. It's got to be the sweetest victory for you, at least in Ricmotech, if not anywhere. Unbelievable. You do a little extra celebration tonight? You got time to celebrate here on a Monday night? Did we lose him?
Did we lose him?
Chris?
I hope not. Chris, you still there?
Is he like
sorry, I was pushing the wrong button. I've been celebrating. I've been dreaming about this for a long time. This has been long. I've chased Swanky since I've been here, and Robert and Mike Dam's always been up there in the front. never really dreamed of catching them two, but
Yeah.
I'll just keep trying.
That work pays off, and for everybody watching, the work means everything. You put in the time, put in the work, and eventually the good results happen for you tonight. The best results you could have is all yours. But I got to ask, who do you want to thank? I'm sure you got some friends and cohorts that helped you here get to the top of the mountain.
Well, I got to thank Reforma Fleet Texas Graphics for paying all my bills. I have to thank David Payton for taking me under his wing and teaching me that stuff behind me don't matter. And I got to thank Extreme, Kevin and Jeff and all them guys for giving me a place to do this, and Hartley and Mike Dam sticking around long enough for me to beat at least one of them. and y'all for putting this on for us every week.
Oh, well, we had the easy job tonight. That was a lot of fun to watch, a great race, and to see you get that first victory is pretty sweet to be a part of. So congratulations, Chris, on that victory, and go soak it in, go celebrate.
Thank you very much.
All right, there you go. First-time winner in the Ricmotech Sports Car Series, Chris Thorman from D2D eRacing. Congratulations to Chris. And so, Larry, wow, you could just hear the emotion in his voice. That was just amazing. All right, let's do this. Let's wrap things up here. It's been an evening. So before we had Chris and the rest of the crew join in, as we mentioned. We've got the Club Sport Series, and registration is now open. If you go to xmsracing.com/clubsport-series, and let's take a look at those different events that we've got coming up here across the different Ricmotech landscape. Coming up next, April 17th. That's going to be 2 weeks for tonight. We're going to take next week off for Easter. We're going to have the Ricmotech World Challenge. It is the finale of the Ricmotech World Challenge season. We're going to be at Sebring International Raceway. Those are our GTP cars, the BMW LMDH cars, and the GT3 cars. And then in 3 weeks, we're going to be at the National Park. That's not right. We're not going to be at the National Park of Speed. Where are we going to be? We're going to be in Sebring again. Oh my God, it's going to be hot. We're for round number 8 of the Sports Car Series. Remind me to talk to Kevin about cutting and pasting. We're going to be at Sebring once again for round number 8, the finale of the Sports Car Series. That is April 24th. And then, as I mentioned, the Club Sports Series, newly renamed our the Global MX-5 Cup cars, and also the GR86 Cup cars. Round 1, May 1st, May Day, at the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit. You don't want to miss that. Again, you can go to xmsracing.com. It's /clubsport-series if you want to sign up for that. So for Larry Lefty McLeod, for John Robertson, and for our good friend Jonathan Grabowski, who I think Larry is going to be taking a little bit of a sabbatical while he and his wife enjoy the wonders of parenthood coming up within the next couple of days. I want to thank him for always being on the scene for us. I'm Greg Ginsburg, and we'll see you in 2 weeks from Sebring International Raceway.
Ricmotech, high-performance sim racing equipment. There's only one place to go, ricmotech.com.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.